Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Embrace Your Life chat. It is the first Tuesday of the month, so I'm excited to have a group conversation, and we're going to be talking about the five love languages. But before we get started on that, I'm Carol C.C. Miller, your positive life strategist, peace activator, and global hugger. And if you are new to these conversations, I like to let people know a couple of different things. And one thing is, I am not an absolutist. I'm not a big fan of the words always or never. There are 7 billion people on this planet. I can't begin to say what is always right for 7 billion people or never right for 7 billion people. So I work in the majority of the time, zero being always negative, 100 being always positive. And I don't know anybody at zero, and I don't know anybody at 100. So my daily practices and what I do with coaching is to stay in the 80 to 100% of the time. That means fear visits me, frustration, hello, Facebook being down for a day visits me, um, doubt visits me, worry visits me, all of those things visit me. But because of my daily practices, I don't stay in that space. I go back into feeling what I feel and moving forward to what I want to feel like. And the second thing is I'm a coach. I love coaching. I love having these conversations. I am not a counselor or a therapist. And sometimes we have situations going on in our lives where we need that kind of support to work through it. Know that you are worthy of living your best life, however that is for you. So, whether it's a coach, a good friend, a therapist, a clergy member, if you're in a particular religion, I highly encourage you to seek out the support you need to live your best life. So, those are the things I like to start out with. I'm Carol from Chicago. Join us in comments and let us know where you're joining us from. And today's topic is the five love languages. It's a book written by Dr. Gary Chapman. It actually came out in 92. I was surprised to see it was that old. I certainly have not been aware of it that long. But when I did become aware of it, I took the quiz to find out what my top love languages are. And it just helps me in all of my relationships to know what other people's love language is because as he says, we tend to give love the way we want to receive love. So knowing it is important. And I will share mine. I actually just took it again today. Hi, Rachel, Millie, and Nikki and Alicia from Louisiana. Alicia, I hope you're doing okay from the hurricane a few months. Was it a month ago? I don't even know how long ago it was now, but hopefully everything is going okay with you there. And so I just retook mine, and my top two switched, which I was interested to find out. But I'm going to introduce the group. I'm going to ask them to share who they are and what their top love language is. If you know what your love language is, please ask questions. And or if you don't even know, ask questions, and we will get into the chat as well. Shawna, you are directly next to me, so I'm saying, Shawna, go.
Oh, look at that. The pressure's on. All right. Hello. Good to be here. My name is Shawna Marie Fischer. I'm in Vancouver, Washington. And this was so cool to do this test. So I kind of have like my top three. And it was interesting. I was like surprised by the results, but not surprised. So my top one was words of affirmation, which was really cool because looking back, I really do like to give people compliments and praise and kind of be like a cheerleader type person for people. So I guess that would make, you're right. Yeah, Ross, I guess that would make sense. And then after that, it was quality time, and I liked quality time with people, and then receiving gifts. They were all kind of in a close percentile range, which is really cool. It's fascinating. I want to read the book now.
I like that. So, words of affirmation are value verbal and written acknowledgments of affection and often frequent digital communication. So, they like texting and social media engagement. Yes, words of affirmation are important to me. I like social media engagement, people. And then you said quality time is value spending time together and just hanging out. They like active listening and eye contact. And then your third was acts of service?
Receiving gifts,
Oh,
actually.
receiving gifts. Okay, let me see. So, receiving gifts, I think, is an interesting one because it shows visual symbols of love. And gifts don't have to be expensive. It's just showing that when somebody has purchased something or gotten something for you, that they're thinking of you. And so that's why it matters to you. So,
It totally
thank.
does. And Danny's back now too. She says she's backstage because she
Oh,
dropped off, but she's back on.
thank you for letting
You're
me
wel-
know.
you're welcome.
Okay, and next is Lara. So, Lara, introduce yourself and tell us what your top love languages are.
Hey guys, hi, it's Lara Pugh. I'm an intuitive and intuition expert. My top two are quality time and acts of service. So, which makes sense to me because for me, like I'm friendly and outgoing, but I'm actually an introvert, which I think confuses people.
Yeah.
But so if I'm with you, believe me, it's because like I really want to be. I'm the kind of person that like when plans get canceled, I'm always like, yeah.
You
Like,
agree to
all
do
right.
something, and then as soon as it gets canceled, you're like, oh, good.
Yeah. Not because because I love people, I really do, but
Yeah.
it's the introvert in me that just wants to go sit on the couch and veg.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. The quality time for sure. And then the acts of service, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that comes out of being a single mom, because I think being single mom, I had to learn to ask for help,
Yeah.
but also like because of course all of our times are, our time is valuable, right? It's like to me, I'd almost rather give you money than give you time, right? So if I'm giving you my time, it's like, all right,
Yeah.
I love you. You know I love you.
And that's acts of services values making your life easier in some thoughtful way. So, like if you're sick, bringing soup to you, or just something
Yeah,
that you don't even have to ask for, and they do it. So that shows
yeah,
that you're loved by that kind of thing. And just for people who aren't sure, because a lot of people think that shy people, but an introvert is really like Lara says, she loves people, but tends to need more time alone to re-energize. An extrovert, it gets re-energized by being around people. And my sister and I, we could be at the same party and everybody would think that we're both extroverts because we're social and talking. She needs a lot of downtime after the party because she's an introvert, where I'm like, let's go. So it's not about being shy or anything. It's about where you refuel yourself. So
yeah,
thank you, Laura.
yeah.
And Janeel, you're next.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you again, Carol, for having us all here. I love this gathering. Um, I'm Janelle, Molokai Mystic, and mine was really interesting. I really hadn't dabbled into this topic before, and I got words of affirmation as my strongest one, which made sense to me. I'm a wordy. Um, but my physical touch was like 3%. I was like, what? I love to hug people. I love that. But then I realized I only love to hug certain people. So, I mean, I love the fact that I know our energies are always connected, but there are those certain hugs, like with my auntie, that I could just like snuggle into and melt away,
Yeah.
you know? But then I have a physical condition where touch hurts me too. So then it
Mm.
then it started making sense. I'm like, but wait a minute, how come this? But really having this type of a quiz to do really brought an awareness to me that I didn't even think of. And I love that Laura touched on the quality time because I'm an introvert as well. And that was my second strongest. And I'm like, huh? But yeah, I love to be with the people that I love, but I need to recharge. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And so, touch is that it's just, you feel loved with a hug or somebody touching your shoulder in concern, those kinds of things. So I think because not everybody is like before I started doing global free hugs, I was not a hugger. It is definitely one of my top affirmation or my love languages now, but it probably was not 10 years ago. I'm sure it was at the lower end of it. So, Dani, welcome and tell us about who you are and your love languages.
I'm Dani Fierro, and I'm a transformational coach. It's been a while since I've done it, but I know that my top two kind of actually like Laura, except for mine was switched. My number one was acts of service, and then second was quality time. And really, it's very similar. Acts of service, single mom here too. It's kind of like it's hard to ask for help. You're just so used to just doing that when someone just does it without even asking, it just it's such a help and it's such a relief. And it just feels so good. It's one less thing that I have to worry about. And I didn't even have to put energy towards asking for it. So definitely can understand where that came from. And then quality time. Again, like Laura, I'm an introvert as well. And so when you have that special person or that right energetic connection and you spend that time with them, it doesn't matter if it's one person or a group of people, it's just so filling. It just fills you up so much. And so having that quality time, not just time, but quality time makes such a difference for me. And I was reminded of that recently. So yeah, those are my top two.
I love those. Thank you. And I think it's interesting as far as the acts of service and I don't know the answer to this, but it seems like you feel like you're even more seen when somebody just does it rather than you asking. But
Yeah,
then people aren't mind readers either. So sometimes we
right.
need to step up and actually ask for it because I do
Yeah,
think most people want to help. They just don't even know how or what to do. So
right.
it's that special, like, wow, they really know me because they just did it without even me needed to ask them.
Exactly.
So I,
Exactly. And I think that's where it does get a little sticky
yeah,
because it's something that you want and you don't want to have to ask for it. But you do need that communication. And so
yeah,
it's something that maybe you start out with having that communication saying, you know what, this is what I like. And I'm sure we're going to get into that about communicating your love
right.
language.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and that's where you kind of start the foundation, build the foundation, and then it can kind of go from there. So,
Yeah, my parents, they're both gone now, but they were married for 53 years. And my father, like, if my mom would say, "Hey, can you do the dishes?" He would absolutely do them. Could he see a dirty dish that needed to be done? Absolutely not. But as soon as he was asked to do anything, he was right there to do it. But that man was not about to do an act of service. He just didn't see things like that. It's like it
yeah.
didn't bother him that there were dirty dishes. So
Yes.
he was a ask and he will do it kind of person. And thank you everyone for the comments. We will get to them in just a moment. I love the questions you're asking and sharing. So, April, you are up. Who are you and what are your love languages?
Hello, everyone. Great to be on here again with you. I'm April Dodd. I'm a transformational life design coach, bestselling author, and the creator of Spiritual Mom Babes and the Self Priority Project. I did this years ago, and I've also done this survey with my kids so that we all have the same knowledge of each other and how we communicate and what feels like love to us. And I brought this up with my kids because my daughter and my son would do their own personal love language to the other person, right? And expect a result back. But that wasn't their love language, right? So I had to find a way to get them to understand that when my daughter wants to watch TV with her brother and he doesn't want to do that, she takes that as he doesn't love her.
Yeah,
And so I had to find a way to communicate with her that his love language is not sitting together watching TV. That's her love language. Is doing things together, acts of service, which is my love language, as well as words of affirmation. And so this morning we got a great example of how this can work and can't work because my husband, who's learning new ways of communicating and expressing himself, even at our age, right? But as parents, we're constantly growing and learning. And my husband and I are very committed to bringing our spiritual practices and our way of being connected to something more than our own ego to our children, to teach them how to find the areas of their life that are fulfilling and ways that they can communicate. So my husband came walking by me this morning. The kids were at the counter and my husband walked by and he said something like, wow, you look all chipper and whatever, fancy or something like that. Chipper and it wasn't fancy. It was something like, it was kind of a joke, but it was kind of a compliment, but it wasn't a clear words of affirmation. It wasn't a clear, hey, you look beautiful today.
yeah,
And so I had to stop him and say, I'm not sure what you mean by that. What do you mean? And he said, I mean, you look beautiful. And I said, I would love if you would say that. And my kids looked at me and we all kind of rolled our eyes. There he goes again. Daddy's saying, like the other day, he said something like, boy, you look like you're all raring to go somewhere. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, you look beautiful. And I'm like, kid, saying I look beautiful would really land for me.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we often have to
You're like,
teach
just
those
stick
around
with
us. Right. I look like I'm ready to go. I don't know what you mean by that. So we get to teach those, especially now when we're in the house together with each other for so long and so much more than we ever were. Learning each other's love languages is so important so that we can communicate and make sure that we are speaking in a way and doing in a way that really lands for each of us. So we feel loved, you know?
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
you're
And
welcome.
even though I was going to wait and go into comments when I talked to everybody, Millie, you asked if that means that being with someone who doesn't share your love language. Absolutely not. You can be at polar opposites. Like if you're an affirmation, I shouldn't say polar opposites because not one of the love languages is better or worse. But if you're high in affirmations and your partner is high in gifts, and you're low in gifts and your partner is low in affirmations, it just means you need to learn how to see each other's love language. It does not mean that you shouldn't be together or anything, but you're not hearing that your partner loves you because they're not talking in your love language. But knowing each other's love languages allows you, just like for April, she was able to say, what do you mean by that? So she affirmed, she got to know exactly what he meant. So it's not about getting rid of a relationship because you're not both in the same love language. It's about knowing your love languages. And although the book started as a romantic partnership, they have it for teenagers, kids, singles. And for me, it just helps knowing any important relationship in my life on what their language is so I can make sure. Because some of my dearest friends, their love language is not affirmations. And so I'm like, but I need you to affirm me, people. And so I have to realize theirs is spending time with me, is how they show love or giving me that gift. So knowing that, knowing their love language helps me feel loved through them, even if it isn't my strongest love language. So, Ellen, you are up.
Hi, I'm Ellen Elizabeth Jones, and thank you, Carol, for creating this time and space for us to have these conversations. And I just retook the quiz this morning, and it's surprising to me how it changes over time, and yet not so much because we're always growing and evolving. But I was surprised a little bit. Let me pull it up here. I had 29% as acts of service, and then 26% of quality time, and then 26% of physical touch. So it was those three were pretty high on my list. And I just had the awareness. Again, these are just, for me, this quiz, these conversations, they're tools for self-awareness.
Yeah.
Just self-awareness. And that before I would have told you that it was quality time and gifts of service, but that words of affirmation were lower on the list, which I guess, as I've continued to grow and mature, I've been taught that I'm responsible for my emotions and the validation. And so these are great tools to have that awareness, but physical touch was way up. When I took it the last time I was in the school system as a preschool teacher, I got lots of hugs, like many, many hugs. And in this time of COVID, we're not getting and giving and receiving as many hugs. And I just see now where that is, I miss that. I miss that physical touch. And so for me, it continues to be about the connection, the emotional connection, the spiritual connection, as well as the physical connection, that giving and receiving and honoring one another for just where we are, meeting people where they are.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting what you'd said about the words of affirmation being lower and that we need to have that for ourselves, which I absolutely agree with. And I think for me personally, it's a difference between appreciating acknowledgement and needing acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
Like I can appreciate, and sometimes I'm in the need moment and I'm like, okay, like let's think about this. What's going on that I need to hear from people? rather than appreciating it coming back to me. So,
I
and
like it.
sometimes it's a nuance, it just depends on that, but it's so fascinating to me.
But it was high on my list before. It was
Well,
really high on my list. So
it has always been my top one until I just took it this morning, and physical touch is now my top one, and I'm quite sure it's because of COVID, because I'm not getting because I do hugs, I hug strangers, people, so physical touch is important to me, but it's all good. So
and
Julie, yeah,
oh,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and I enjoy right now during these times. I like to put a card in the mail and a praise and encouragement. That I feel good giving and expressing love in that way.
Yeah.
So I was just again very surprised with the way the quiz turned out.
Which is a connection of words of affirmation and gifts, because the card in the mail is also a gift. So very interesting. Guiliana, tell us who you are and your top love languages.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Guiliana Melo. I'm a motivational speaker. I live here in Calgary, Alberta. My top love language is definitely words of affirmation. And if you allow me, though, I want to talk a little bit about what's your self-love language, because I did write a book on learning to love yourself. And over time, when I learned about the book, The 5 Love Languages, I think it was 6 years ago now, wasn't it, Ellen? Because we were in the same MBS. And so over time, I can see in my own relationship with myself and with my husband, last night when I had the conversation with it, we've both shifted. And I do think it's because of COVID that things have changed in the world. I think that we've deepened. Oh, I'm getting all goosies. As a humanity, we are recognizing what's important, and to take care of ourselves is really important. So although my husband's is definitely quality time, I know that mine and his is quality time together. But my self-love language is acts of service for myself. What am I going to do for myself to get through this day? And some of the things are like therapy. There's no shame in that. A lot of us met because of Sunny Dawn Johnston, and that's why we're together. And acts of kindness. Carol, you're a kindness queen. I love kindness as well. Cleaning my environment. I love being in a clean environment. Delegating. I had to learn how to delegate, because until I got sick, it was like I was a control fanatic and wanted to do everything myself. And going out. I love going out. Anybody who follows me on social media knows I love to go out. So, also, I think that recognizing that it's important in relationships, knowing what their love language is, but it's super important knowing what your own is and taking care of you first, filling yourself up, and then giving from that overflow. So, that's what I absolutely think is working on your own self-love language, and then the people around you, your children. My son is absolutely gifts.
That's just yes.
Can I pop in and respond to her?
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you for saying that. So here's what happened. I'm in Vegas right now, and I really didn't need to be here until Wednesday, but I decided to come 2 days early, and I really didn't I thought maybe I'd bring a friend or whatever, but I really didn't ask friends to come with me, which I felt a little weird about that. I was am I weird, or is it? But I've really been enjoying my alone time. So, and I didn't really put together why until you said that, because I just said quality time, and then you said the self-love. I'm like, oh, I needed self-love. So now I feel better about my alone trip here. Thank you. I just feel a little weird.
You've been healed.
Yeah.
I've been healed. Thank you. And I've been enjoying it.
I did a quick little research, and it said that words of affirmation, 23% of the people, I'm assuming who have taken the quiz, are words of affirmation. Quality time is 20%, acts of service is 20%, physical touch is 19%, and receiving gifts was 18%. Mine this time, physical touch was 33%, and words of affirmation were 30%. It was switched the other way before, where it was words were top and then physical touch was second. So let's go into comments. And what did you find as far as important relationships that this has helped you know? Like if you were at a high on affirmations and important relationships are low on that, what have you discovered on being able to have conversations or working around those challenges where you're not speaking the same love language? Okay, Janeel.
I'm just going to touch on that if I may. My husband is hard of hearing, and my number one is words of affirmation. And so I really like to have that. And then there's quality time is my second. And so with my husband not being able to hear me very well, I get I can feel that I'm yearning for that, you know? And I think that's when I go into how do I deal with not being able to have that in-depth conversation with someone that I love, you know? And that's, I think, what really draws me to do a lot of my posts, a lot of my commentaries and stuff, because I need that verbal interaction that I'm not really getting from the person that I'm yearning for.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to have a conversation with him as of late. So that is a challenge for me, but I have been aware of it. And I am looking to utilize other tools to be able to, that self-love, thank you, Guiliana, is figuring out ways to fill that.
Well, and I think that that's what I like about the quiz so much is, and I like personality quizzes. It does not mean an absolute, I'm this way or that way, but it's the awareness of it and knowing other people's love language. Because if my strong one of me feeling loved is affirmation or touch, and the people that I'm around that is not that, then it's easy to feel unloved too. So when you know on those relationships, you can realize, oh, I'm not speaking their language and they're not speaking mine, and that's totally okay. So, how about anybody else? Juliana?
I just want to, there's a comment that Kathy Gibbler says, Jesus says to die to self. Now, as a Catholic and as a spiritual teacher, I just want to address that, because that self is the ego self. When I take care of me after a diagnosis of stage 3 cancer, I give all glory to God. However, I take care of myself because I matter, because self-care is divine care. I'm honoring God, Jesus, Holy Spirit within me. And so when I say self-care, it's not selfish. It is selfless. Because when I take care of me, and anybody, all of you ladies know me, that means that I'm a great G. I can go out, I can be kind, I can do a random act of kindness. I give from the overflow. I exude God through me. So I hope that that helps shed some light with Kathy, because it's not a this or that. We can love Jesus and take care of ourselves.
Yeah, I like that.
It's not being selfish.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other conversation. This is, you know, being the best you in relationships, and it begins with you.
Absolutely. We have a comment here from Millie asking about compatibility on your energetical match. What are your thoughts on that one, ladies?
Oh,
I'll respond to that.
Certainly.
I think compatibility. So my husband and I have been kind of reinventing our relationship, and knowing these love languages has been a part of that. And we weren't energetically matched because we weren't taking care of ourselves. We were really expecting that the other person would know our love language and fill that cup. And when we put all those eggs in that basket, when we're already depleted, things start to crumble. And so if we're not energetically matched, it requires us, and we know this, my husband and I gratefully, that it means that we've got some internal work to do to become energy rich ourselves. And that means filling our own cup, remembering who we are, taking the time to meditate, to honor what I really feel right now and what I really feel like doing or feel like saying. And when I'm in that space and filling my cup, then that allows me to communicate to my husband in a way that he can hear, that also matches his love languages. And when I know his and I know mine, I can know how to work better with him. I can know how to communicate with him. I know what clicks and what doesn't click. And I'm able now to say, like I said this morning, without taking it personally like I used to, hey,
Yeah.
you look like you're whatever he said, which didn't, it felt like a high school boy walking by going, hey, you look like you're going to the prom or something. Like, if that's supposed to be a compliment, it doesn't land on me. I'm not that kind of person. I can take that personally and say, he doesn't know my love language, and then get angry about it or distant about it or whatever. My reaction is really the issue.
Yeah.
So it's not what he's doing, it's how I'm relating to myself. I'm relating to myself by thinking, he doesn't love me enough. He doesn't care about me. I'm not worth caring about. Like, so I start going into my own story, and how I relate to the issue is the issue. So for me, compatibility and being energetically matched, we may not be energetically matched a lot of the time. He's working at the office. He comes home. I'm with the kids. Like, there's an energy difference. But the key for me is to communicate, and to communicate in a way using some of these love languages and other things. Like Carol said, this isn't the be all end all, but it's awareness. Having awareness of this allows me to communicate to myself, as Guiliana is saying, my self-love, self-care, listening to myself, but also to communicate with him in a way that allows us to meet each other and to honor each other. And then we can start to move from there. I hope that helps to answer your question, Millie.
I think it answered it for me. And I put the link in for the quiz. It's a free quiz, but if for some reason, because I'm using StreamYard, it's not showing up in comments for you, it is the number 5 lovelanguages.com. And I will come back after we're done and put it in each spot too. But it's the number 5, not spelled out, the number 5 lovelanguages.com. And you know what? Let me make sure it's love languages and not love language. It's lovelanguage.com, no S. So you can go there. I take that back. It has an S. 5lovelanguages.com. Like, goodness, Carol, get the information straight. So, what are other thoughts? I mean, how long have you been using this, or I know a couple of people just took it today? What would you say has been the most helpful for you in knowing this information?
Well, I know for me, it's come up a lot in readings, actually. I was excited when you were having this as a topic, because I know, like, intuitively it's come through as a resource that I've provided to clients a lot, because one of the questions I get a lot in readings is, my guy when is he going to tell me he loves me? I haven't, when is he going to express his feelings for me? And then my guides will convey that, well, he does love you. Look at the love languages, look at how he's expressing it, find out what his love language is. So it comes up in readings all the time. It's like it's a form of communication, for men and women, or for any kind of relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know after I took it, you could tell the people, at least I could, who were more the physical touch, because they tend to be the ones, like they just might just barely touch you, or they hug you or shake hands or something, but they need that type of connection. They tend to sit closer to you than other people. And I have a niece who I adore, and her love language is absolutely not touch. And so when she's upset about something, I just want to hug her and make her feel better, and I have to remind myself. It's like, and so now I ask her. So, like, because I'm the one she'll call when she's upset about something, and if we're together, I will now say, "May I hug you?" instead of just immediately, because for her that shuts her down on processing her emotions, and for me it's helping heal the emotion. So it's like, okay, this isn't your love language, and so I'll ask her. It's like, can I hug you right now? And sometimes she says no, and sometimes she says yes. But I've had to learn that offering a hug is not necessarily that person's love language to help them through something. So it's a challenge for me, but I'm working on it. So we have lots of different people saying hello here, and if I've missed questions and comments, let me know. Please ask again if you have a specific question that I have not come to. I don't see anything here. Does anybody have anything else they want to? I have a cutoff at 12:15 because I have a hard call at 12:30 that I need to prepare for. But does anybody else have something they want to make sure they convey or speak about regarding 5 love languages? And Juliana, we'll probably have to do a separate one on the self-love language sometime.
Yeah, I do. If nobody
Okay.
else does.
Yeah, you go, and then I see
Okay.
that Dani did too.
So one of the things I've learned about the love languages is that it's a lot of action, right? It's how we're acting and what we're doing. And what I work a lot with in with my clients is the beingness first. So there's a lot of how we are being inside of ourselves versus all the doing. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's about filling our energy and how we're showing up with things rather than checking a box like, I've done this act for you, right?
Yeah.
It's how we're being when we show up with it. Like my husband can know that, I like my pillows arranged a certain way at night. But if he's doing it from a place of irritation or judgment or anger, then I don't want it, right? So there's a whole beingness that will have an impact on his intention. So in our house, we have a big conversation going on right now, a lot about intention versus impact. So my daughter, who's a super smart girl, she can learn this stuff and she will check boxes with it. Well, my little brother likes it when I do this thing for him, but he's so sensitive and wise that he's like, I don't know why you're doing this. It doesn't feel good. The impact on him is it doesn't feel good. But my daughter will get stuck in, but I did the right thing. I spoke your love language. I checked the box. But the impact also matters. The impact on my son was that it didn't work. It didn't feel good. And that has to be honored too. So in these love languages, we need to consider too our beingness, our energy, as well as the impact it has on somebody. You might know their love language, but it might be different that day because, like you said, Carol, or I can't remember who said it about getting all the hugs. I don't want to be touched. My husband wants to give me a hug. I'm like, they're all over me all day. I don't want to be touched. But if he thought that was one of my love languages and then now he feels rejected, he's going to get confused. So it's important for us to fill our cup and continue to communicate so that we can let them know where we stand, but also monitor our own beingness, our own energy, so that we can have the right kind of intention and method that works for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's so important is the intention behind it because, like you said, you can know somebody's love language, so you do it because you have to do it rather than doing it with the true, I want to make this person feel loved. And I'll have you go, Dani, but then I think Dani and Lara, you were two that had high acts of service. And somebody asked if that meant that they're a control freak. So, Dani, you wanted to share something first, and then Lara or Dani talk about acts of service and what that means to you.
Actually, it was going right along with what April was saying, which is, taking the test and finding out your love language, it's an awareness.
Yeah.
And finding out what other people, their love language, it's an awareness, but it's fluid. It's not gonna, you can't go into saying, oh, that's their love language, and that's it. It's going to be that way the whole time. It's exactly what April was saying. There's that intention behind it. That's how you do it. You don't do it just to check the box. It's about understanding who they are and really taking that in and showing the love towards them, speaking their language. It's not about just doing it just to do it and just say, see, look, I showed you I cared.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's learning that so you can learn to speak the language to help them. And day by day, it may be different. And not holding that against them of, well, I did this for you. You should have been, loved it. You should have been fine with it. It's about understanding that it's learning an awareness, learning a language, but it's also fluid. And it's okay if it changes for us because it has. I mean, people here on this panel here, it's changed for us. And so just understanding that that's fine.
Well, and I think just like how I share almost every live I do, well, every live I do, I share my scale of 0 to 100. So even though affirmations and touch are my top and they're the majority of the time, but like April said, there's times that I don't want to be touched or the words are not like I want to be in silence for a while or whatever, which doesn't happen often for me, by the way. But sometimes I want to be in silence. But
Right.
so it really is going back to the majority of the time. And I do speak about, when you're aware of your feelings, then you can adjust. You can either stay in anger or frustration, or you can move into feeling a little bit better. But when we're not aware of how we feel, then we're on autopilot and life is living us and we're not living life.
Right.
So Lara or Dani, who wants to talk about the acts of, what was it?
The control freak stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which one of you?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, I just wanted to say one thing is that, and it popped right out. Never mind. Go, Laura. It was there and it popped right out. And it'll come back and then I'll have to say it later.
It'll come back. I'm not even sure. I have to admit, I'm not totally sure, like what they mean by the control freak in connection with the acts of service. But I know for me, it's because it's coming from a space of humility. It's hard for me to humbly ask someone for help, and especially because a lot of times there'll be that sense of like, oh, you did something for me, now I owe you, or something like that. And so that's where I'm coming from with it, is if I'm giving you help, it's because I'm really giving you what's most precious to me, which is my time, because I tend to be pretty busy. I've got my hands in a lot of things. I'm a business owner. I'm self-employed. So, and if I ask you to do something for me, likewise, I'm feeling very humble about it, because I know it might, I know that also other people's time is very valuable, and maybe they're gonna, I'm just careful about that too. And and I recently had to say no to someone. A friend of mine, her back went out last month, and I said, hey, let me know if I can help you with anything. So on Saturday she was like, yeah, can you run the Trader Joe's and get blah 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 all these things for me? And I was like, absolutely. So I went to Trader Joe's, I got her what she needed, I delivered it, spent some time with her, and I had been busy all week and I really didn't have time to do it that Saturday, but I did it. Then the next day she was like, hey, can you go get me some Salonpas patches? And I was like, actually, no, I can't. I'm really sorry. Can you, here's a coupon code, can you get it delivered from Target or Safeway or whatever? Because and my mom, even that day, my mom was like, can we go to Costco? And I'm like, no, actually, either we have to go later in the week or we have to get a delivery, because if I don't rest today, I'm not going to be able to it's just been a rough week and I need to rest today, because otherwise I won't be able to work tomorrow. So it's sometimes I just had to say no to the act of service. I'm like, nope, that's why we got delivery today. You all gotta just get your deliveries, because I gotta have my downtime.
Well, and I think it goes back to a lot of people, especially of the givers, it's knowing when it's healthy to give and when you're going into over giving. And I'm a giver. I love giving. And often I've gone into it being unhealthy when I totally crash of energy, because I keep doing and doing, because it fills me up. To know when I'm full and when I'm on overload is where I have to practice on knowing that and saying the no's. So it's really about when you're giving because it fills you up, and when you're giving because you need to be needed, kind of thing. And I've been both in my life. So sometimes, especially younger, I gave because I knew that they needed me if I was giving to them, kind of thing. So it's been helpful that way. And Millie added that she was told that she was a control freak because she needed help.
Oh, wow. I don't even get that. I don't understand why someone would say that.
There's one thing with that I would like to, if you don't mind, Carol, I know our time is just
Go
about
right ahead.
up. But that's so, I'm a recovering control freak. And everything that's been shared here about filling our cups up. In fact, when I taught preschool, we had a little system about filling the cups. We would exchange cotton balls and put them in each other's cups. And for the recovering control freak, acts of service was my top one. It still is my top one. And it is more about the energy that's behind it. It is, when I was really tired and had young children and my husband did laundry, there was nothing better than, having the dishes done, those acts of service. But one of the things that I learned is, as a recovering control freak, that's a lot of my ego is involved with there, wanting to control because I'm in fear, and that way I can create safety in my world. And I flipped that to now I am a receiving freak. I am open and receptive instead of I'm a control freak. I flipped that, and just flipping it to being open and receptive, being present. And because you asked for help, I believe that for me, that has been something I had to learn how to do, is to ask for help, because my ego and pride would say, don't get to that level of humility. You don't need anyone. Actually, that was the message I heard a lot growing up. And the fact is, I can still be responsible for me and still ask for help, because we don't have to do anything alone unless we choose to.
Yeah. I mean, we're a fairly connected species. Again, not everyone. I can't say for 7 billion people, but I can say I believe the majority of us require that connection. Extroverts a little bit more than the introverts, but we still like having that type of connection. So is there anything in closing that anyone would like to share? We will be back on the third Tuesday talking about, what are we talking about? How to get through challenging times, I believe that's not the exact name of it, but it's something about that. I think Juliana's pulling it down maybe. But anything last? Go ahead.
Yeah, I have one last thing to say.
Oh,
Yep.
yep.
Take a just Google search 5 love languages. There's so many different kinds of books out there. I know there's the 5 languages of apology out there as well. And for kids and for different situations. So check it out, or even Google PDF, like Google image a PDF of all the different kinds of love languages you're looking for. You'll find lots of things you can download. I've got one hanging up for my kids to see. So it's really helpful. Just keep it,
Visual,
in front of you. Yeah, in some way. But there's lots of different versions that might be supportive of you.
And again, it's not for everyone. So if you do your love languages and it just does not resonate or make sense, let it go. So it's just about offering opportunities to heighten celebrations and lessen sorrows here. Anything else before we call it a session?
Such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Such a great conversation.
Yes.
Loved it.
And thank you. And again, I have a commitment at 12:30, but I'll come back in later and look at comments and comment and make sure that I share the 5. It's the number 5 lovelanguages.com, and that takes you to all the different types of love language quizzes from Dr. Gary Chapman. There's probably others, like Juliana's written a book. Juliana, if you want to share in how they can get that book and links.
Thank you, Ellen.
Please. Yeah, and Ellen has it right there. So thank you, all of you ladies who have joined me today. I so appreciate our conversations, and we will be connecting again in 2 weeks on the third Tuesday. Not everyone here is available, but some of you are. And for all of you who have joined us, it's just been helpful for me to know my love language and to know those around me. So I encourage you to take the quiz, and if it doesn't resonate, let it go. But it is a free quiz that you can take and learn a little bit more about how you receive love, because that's going to help you know how you also give love. So have a wonderful day filled with lots of love on however you receive it, and we will talk again soon. Remember, you matter. You matter to me, you matter to the world, and most importantly, you matter to you. So long for now, and I will be back on Thursday. I don't know the topic yet, but it'll be something about heightening your celebrations and lessening your sorrows through a positive focus. So long for now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.